Hello, everybody. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Welcome to episode 11. Isn't that
Yeah,
awesome?
that's crazy. Wow. To think of how this started just a few months ago and where we are, it's really exciting. Yeah.
And tonight's episode is Secrets Keep You Sick. What do you think of that title?
I agree 100%. My mom says I can't tell a lie because it's so obvious. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
The one question I want to ask the audience is we're obviously all guilty of secrets, right?
Yes.
What do you think a good question would be? I think either I wanted to go down the road of I don't know. I wanted to go down the route of like what is a secret you've been keeping, but I feel like that's a weird question. But like instead of that, let's just see where is everyone from tonight? I want to know
Yeah.
where everyone is from tonight. Because if you guys are new here, we'd love to see where you're from.
Yeah. And I guess maybe they could start with answering the question, have you had a secret ever that's made you sick? One you've
Yes,
kept
that is a good question.
made you not feel good. Just a yes or a no. Don't have to go into details, but just a curiosity. Yeah.
As I just wait for the stream delay to come in here.
Yeah.
And if you guys are watching the show tonight, please take that time to share the show. You never know who it might help. A simple share, someone might goes on their feed and they take a few seconds to watch the show and they hear something that might change their life. So share if you care is the motto that we go by here. And a little explanation about the show. If you guys didn't already know, this is a Q&A show where you ask Mr. Doug Dane questions. And how you ask a question on the show is you can comment it in the comment section, or you can come on to the show when we post a link, and you can come in backstage and you'll meet Erin, and you can ask her your question privately. Or if you want to come on the show, that'd be perfectly fine with a camera or without a camera. And to kind of give a little demonstration, if you didn't want to show your camera, it would be something that looks like this. And then you don't have to show your camera, and you can just talk to Doug and maybe talk about your problem that you might have today.
Yeah, we really, the chat is great. We really encourage you, though. Now's the time. If you want to talk to Doug, you can right now. The advice is here live. So don't be shy. If you want to stay anonymous, like Tyson said, there's lots of options to do so. But now is your time to get these questions answered and make that turning point in your life.
Yes. Cool. And we got so many people in the chat. That's awesome. We got Washington. That's awesome. We got Air. Amazing. Amazing.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. So let's get right into the show. So if you guys are new here, we are your MCs tonight. And I want to introduce you to someone named Doug Dane. And Doug's life started with abuse and has turned it into an abundance. And now he's on a mission with this show to show others how they can do the same. Doug and our team has created this show because we wanted a platform to reach a lot of people and help them get unstuck really fast. Doug discovered that the turning point can happen for you very fast, and it's actually quite simple. Doug spent years trying to figure out how to get ahead, and it was really hard, and it took him a long time, but it doesn't have to be like that for you. It doesn't. There's a better way, and tonight could be the turning point for you. So let's not make him wait. Let's bring him on to the show. Doug?
Hey, Tyson, Aaron.
Hey.
Hello.
How are
you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, don't make me wait because it's my show, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I know. This is your show. And the topic I love that you picked. I love what you picked tonight.
You know, that was I got a bunch of seminar talk. Used to do seminars. I was doing them every week. In fact, I was doing them every week in 3 different cities on the same day. And I was always coming up with seminar titles. And one of them, of course, was Secrets to Keep You Sick. And I got it actually from I was watching Intervention, the TV show. Mm-hmm. And I just was flicking through TV, which I very rarely watch. But for some reason, I stopped. And they were doing an intervention for this guy hooked on drugs. And the person running the intervention, I heard her say, secrets keep you sick. And I just hung off that. I didn't watch the rest of the show. I just picked that up and go, son of a bitch, that's true. Anyway, I got lots of seminar titles one of the ones I want to do in the next couple of weeks is called Be a Man. I always joke, only women will show up. But anyway, that's where I got it from. So I'm excited.
I like
to
that.
do it. Yeah, it's good. We got a good show planned. Well, listen, let me dive right into it. We do have a guest tonight. We don't have guests every time. We do have a guest tonight. We'll bring him on in a little while. I was talking to somebody today that's helping me. We were talking about how to get this message out that is inside of me. Well, I guess it's inside. It's coming through me, and I'm constantly trying to figure out how to get you to listen to what I have to say. Not that I want you to hear me talk, but there's things that you don't know that I do that I didn't know that I now know, and you need to know. I work with Bob Proctor, and he really always focuses on. He says everybody wants time and money freedom, and I remember him saying, he goes, they'll be amazed at how much free time you have when you don't have to worry about money. And I didn't know what that meant. And you can have so much free time on your hands, or you never have to worry about money again. And I finally figured out that I was spending way too much time worrying about money. And when I stopped worrying about money, I had all this free time, and now I've got this time and money freedom. Sometimes I'm still surprised how much free time I have, and I'm so used to doing. I'm going, what the hell am I doing? I got all this free time, and that's what you want. You want time and money freedom, and you want freedom from all the other bullshit, all the other worries, and all the other things that are stressing you and causing you fear and doubt and worry and anxiety, and making you sick, literally. But you don't know how to get it. Now you say, yes, I do. And I said, no, you don't. I was talking to somebody today, and he said, I didn't want to admit to you that I didn't know how to do this on my own. But you asked me a couple questions that made it obvious that I obviously didn't know what I was doing. He was joking. We met that I took all his personal development books and I threw them across the desk. I go, this isn't working for you. Now, the problem is, you can do better. You can feel it. You can do better, but you can't seem to figure it out. And the problem is you're looking in all the wrong places. Okay. You're online, you're buying books, you're on YouTube, you're scrolling through freaking social media, doing all this stuff. Now you're on Clubhouse. That's the newest thing. Everybody's inviting me to Clubhouse. You're looking in all the wrong places. You're looking outside at your situation and your circumstances. And what you got to do is you got to look inside. So here's the real cause. I was walking my dog River this morning. I was thinking, how do I get this message across to people? And so here's the problem. It comes down to three things. Number one, you got rules, values, beliefs, and things that you've learned that are controlling you. That's what's causing you to do what you do, act the way you act, think the way you think, get the results that you're getting, and you're literally enslaved by your habits. Your self-image and your ego has you convinced of who you're not. And you're limited by a poverty of imagination and a weakness of attention, meaning that you're so locked into the rules, values, and beliefs and the limiting perspective of who you are and what you're really truly capable of, even though you know and feel you could do better. And you don't really spend a whole lot of time imagining what's actually possible. So you have a poverty of imagination. You don't have an abundance of imagination. You have a poverty of imagination, and you've got a weakness of attention. You don't spend a whole lot of time and any real attention on really thinking about what you're capable of doing, or really thinking about ideas of how you can change your situation. You're ruled by fear, number three, and primarily because you're worried about what other people are going to think. So you want to make a move, you get some ideas to make a move, but again, you're restricted by these rules, values, and beliefs. And if what you want to do doesn't line up with your rules, values, and beliefs, you think that's not a good idea. The idea is great. It's the rules, values, and beliefs that are all freaking screwed up. Okay. And if you don't evaluate those, you're toast. So you have this fear to make your move because you're worried about what people are going to think. What's my parents going to think? What's my family going to think? What's my spouse going to think? What are my kids going to think? I was talking to a lady yesterday on a call, and she said, I read something online that kind of bothered me. And I said, well, where'd you get that from? She said, well, my son told me about it. And, I went to check it out. I said, how old is your son? And she said 19. I said, how old are you? She's 57. I said, well, number one, your son doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's 19. He's so far off track in what he's told you. And you're 57 and you're concerned about what he's thinking. Like, we're so locked in and worried about what people think. And the other problem you got is you're convinced that your problem is your situation. You look at your results, you look at COVID, and you look at you lost your job, or you look at what's going on, or you look in the mirror, or whatever, but you look at your results and you're convinced that nothing can really change and there's no real other way. And the other problem is you've tried other ways, right? You've bought programs and courses, and maybe you've hired a coach or a mentor or whatever. I was talking to this friend of mine today. In the past few years, there's been so much crap sold online. People bought all this stuff thinking that's the answer. If I just knew this, things would be better. And so people have a real trust issue in knowing where to go and where to go for help. So you have a hard time trusting who you should trust because you spend all this time and money on programs, coaches, therapists, and you're still not where you'd hope that you'd be. I always say, if you really knew me and what's on my heart and what I know, you know that I know shit about people. I'm very good at getting to the heart of what's going on with people very, very fast. And I'm not saying this from a bragging perspective or an ego perspective. This is from a knowing perspective. In fact, I had a hard time accepting the idea that I was so good at this, that this was my gift. And I don't screw around with people. I was on the call with somebody yesterday, and they were telling me about a situation. I said, you need your ass kicked. And so I kicked their ass, like, fast, because that's what you need. The only way you're going to change your mind is either repetition of a new idea. And I can't do this in the next 45 minutes. I can't give you enough repetition to change your mind unless you come to the show every single week. And then maybe, a week from now, a month from now, or a year from now, I'll finally change your mind. The only other way to change your mind is punch you in the gut and then get you to realize who you really are and what you're really capable of. And I have a gift to see what you're really capable of. I have a gift to see the truth in you. And that's the other problem, is you got to be honest with yourself. People aren't honest with themselves. I'll talk to people and they'll dance around, the story, and they're really good dancers. And I'll ask them questions and they'll dance around. And then I already know what's going on for you. In a matter of a couple of minutes, I know pretty much everything about you. All I got to do is ask you a few questions and I pretty much got you figured out. And then I wait for you to tell me the truth. And it always starts like this. Well, Doug, the truth is. I go, fuck, finally, now we're getting somewhere. Okay? Because if you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you. And if you don't tell the truth about yourself and what you're thinking and what you're feeling and really get honest with yourself, you can't help yourself either. And so the great quote Bob Proctor always uses, it's from Bill Gove. It says, if I want to be free, I got to be me. Not the me I think you should be, not the me that I think my parents think I should be. If I want to be free, I got to be me. And the key to being free, to being me, is by telling the truth. And so tonight's show is called Secrets Keep You Sick. Because if you don't tell the truth about who you really are, if you don't operate from the truth, if you don't live your life the way you want from a truth perspective, it's going to bog you down and slow you down. So I want to talk to you about that tonight. Before we bring my guest on, Tyson, we have any questions to kind of kick us off?
Yes, we do. We have one, Jeff from Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you tell the truth about something that could cause someone problems for others? That's a very interesting question. Huh? I like that. What do you think?
Well, okay. So people often don't like my answers. My first answer is, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit what they think? I'm not saying you shouldn't care about the people in your life, and you need to deliver the truth to them in a way, in a loving way, in a kind way, in an honest way. A great agreement from a book I read. It's called Be Impeccable with Your Word, which means to be perfect with your word. So use your words impeccably, but you can't care what people think. Again, this person I was talking to yesterday, they're still struggling with something with their parents, and their parents are dead, you know? And so you tell the truth. And what I found for me and other people is that the more you tell the truth, because you're putting out good, by law, cause and effect, by law, you have to get good back. You may not get good back right away, but you will get good back in some way. And so I think you got to muster up the courage where you go, you know what? I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to be impeccable with my word, but I'm not going to concern myself with what they think, because that's probably ruling your life.
Wow. Dropping bombs, eh?
Well, they might not like the bombs, but what the hell?
Well, we got another question.
Okay.
Sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but is it Dina? Dina from the UK? I have a similar story to yours, and I can't seem to let it go. It's not as easy as you say it is.
You're right. It's easier. Listen, I get it. I went public with my story in 2001. It was in the newspaper. I was on national television. It's in books. That was 2001. And it took me until 2015, 16 to really start to figure it out. Because the way that I was doing it, I was going about it the wrong way. So when I say it's easy, it is easy. It's simple, but I made it very, very difficult. When you really start to take a look at the laws of nature, then you really start to understand who and what God is, and your relationship to spirit, to God, to universe. When you start to really get that, then you discover it actually quite simple. So I say to people, listen, it's not difficult. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take as long, but you got to do certain things in a certain way. And if you do that, now you got to be willing to do that. You got to be willing to listen, number one. I have people go, it's not freaking simple, Doug, and they'll argue with me. And I go, all right. That's why it's hard, because you keep arguing that it's hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be very easy, but you got to accept that idea first before it can be easy. I can think it's going to be difficult to lift the weight, or I can think it's going to be easy. Which one's the better way to think? It's all in how you think. So, Deanna, if you want to talk about that, I'll debate that with you all day long, and I'll help you.
Awesome.
Right. Let's bring our guest on. I want to bring a friend of mine. I met him when he was about 12 years old. I was in a relationship with his aunt, and I saw this beautiful young boy. And then a few years ago, we came back in contact. And when I was thinking about the title of the show, I was thinking, who would be good for the show? And it was funny. He was actually watching the show. And he said, I want to come on the show because you know what? Secrets have kept me sick. So let's bring him on. Let's bring Danny on. Hey, brother.
Hey, guys. How you doing, man?
Good, man.
How you doing, Doug? Doing very well.
Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Of course, yeah. My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
You're ready now, aren't you?
I'm ready.
Good. Well, listen. So what I want to do while we got Danny here, guys, is I put together some questions for him. He's got a really great story. He's got really great insight. I think you're really going to enjoy the chat we're going to have here for a little while. And again, feel free to type in your comments if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you have questions, type it in there. Or as Tyson mentioned earlier, if you want to be anonymous, because as you can see, some people as they're coming on here, you can see their names. If you want to be anonymous, you can just click the link. We'll drop the link in the chat. You can click the link, and that'll put you backstage. You're not on camera or anything like that. And you can there'll be a chat, and you can talk to Erin, and you can give her your question. You don't even have to put your name in. You can just type in your question. And if you want to come on the show, as Tyson mentioned, we can bring you on as well. live, on camera or off camera, just audio. Type in a different name, whatever you want to do. I'm not even Doug. This isn't Danny. So this is Robert, and my name's George, and so we're incognito tonight. So
rather be George tonight.
All right. So first off, just to get us kind of rolling, just kind of give us a Coles Notes. Give us a short list of all the shit that you've been through, just to give people some perspective on where you were and where you've come from.
Yeah. So most of this, these things that happened were at a very young age, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. So sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. I witnessed my mom being attacked by a man that we lived with for a period of time, quite bad, beaten. I jumped on his back at 4 years old, trying to get him off of her, and then tended to her wounds afterwards. So just very, a lot of stuff for a little kid at that age to go through, who would be confused because you really don't understand what's going on. And later, shortly after, that man that we lived with, he actually raped and tortured 3 women and murdered one of them. So this would have been in like 1983. Wow. So it's a testament to who he was as a person. He tormented me, and I have memories of him abusing me in ways. And so the sexual abuse wasn't from him. That was at 3 years old, from a babysitter's son. So and it turned into Tourette's, ADHD, PTSD, night terrors, anxiety, as a child. And you're very confused at that age. So you really don't understand why it's happening, because even the events that happened don't make sense at that time. Later on, developed into depression in my early teens, and turned to drugs and alcohol, violence, fighting all the time. Had a lot of severe learning disabilities all through school. I could barely speak, to be honest with you. I couldn't even order a pizza at 17 years old. My mom would laugh because, but you wonder why, And this is we're taught to be quiet and keep secrets, and that's what I ended up becoming as a person who.
It's interesting. When I opened here, I didn't see that in you. I just saw this beautiful 12-year-old boy. I was probably 23 at the time, maybe 24 at the time. And I didn't see that at all. And then, talking about secrets, like ultimately, one of the abusers in your life ends up raping and murdering 3 women.
No, murdering just one.
That would have been public.
Yeah, it was public at the time.
Yeah, and that would be a secret nobody would, like, I wouldn't want to say that to them. Guess what?
He hid the abuse well, so my mom didn't even know about it. He hid it. A lot of it was like tormenting, and I remember hiding behind the couches, under the tables. It's very young age, 3 and 4 years old, so it's very hard. You shut that stuff out, and in later years it started to come out. But growing up, I had no idea what was going on because it was a secret. Everything was a secret. I kept it a secret easily too.
Yeah. I remember that too. When I was young, we got really good at keeping the secrets inside the walls of our house. The only time the secrets really got out is if the police showed up, and they showed up a lot. But we really got conditioned to, just really keep our mouth shut and go to school and pretend like everything was okay. So, there's a lot to Danny's story. So, give me an example of a secret you kept that kept you sick, and explain the impact of keeping the secret and what it had on you.
Yeah, I would say the strongest one would be the sexual abuse at a young age. I didn't end up finding out until I was 22. So obviously a 3-year-old does know what happened, and I did know at the time. However, after, it's because you don't really understand what it is. So I kept it a secret. I literally blocked it out, but that's a different time period to, be able to make that change at that point. In doing that, the reason why these things, in my opinion, are kept secrets is because of the shame that's surrounded by it. And in my opinion, shame makes us sick. It's the secret and the shame, and their secret and shame is, I think, very closely related to one another. So that shame, in my opinion, it creates disease in the body, whether or not it's mental health or physical health. And in me, it created initially mental health with the Tourette's, ADHD, anxiety disorders at a young age, depression. I had PTSD back then. There was no such thing as PTSD, but I know that I did it in the sense of how I've been, and I lived with it my entire life. I lived with fear because when we're at that age, we're like sponges. We pick up everything that happens, and my paradigm was fear. It was scared. It was fearful. It was frightening, and I lived with that for my entire life. And it ended up causing mental health challenges in my life, all through my life. Physical health in my 30s, my body started to break down. My hormones were all off the chart. I had spinal stenosis. I had scoliosis, inflammatory bowel problems. You name it. Every part of my bodily system was breaking down. I was bedridden for about 2 years at 34 years old. And I do believe that a big reason why this was happening is because of the unresolved issues that happened were stuck in parts of my body, creating, disease, my body not being at ease.
Just thinking as you're talking, so a couple things. The shame piece is huge. I know for me, when I was young, during the sexual abuse period, a couple of years, the pedophiles had me convinced that it was normal, and it felt good, but I always felt like shit after, and I felt shit about me, and I couldn't figure it out. As you said, when we're little, we don't really know. But now now, how old are you now?
43.
43. Okay. So now you're aware, and you can obviously look back and connect some of the dots and things. And like obviously PTSD, that wasn't even a label, but now we know what PTSD. So you go, yeah, I had PTSD, et cetera. Where was I going to go with that? You've been struggling. That's where it was. You've been struggling physically for so long. And what I keep thinking about is I think about so many people that are struggling physically, and both with mental health, and they're locked in to, as I mentioned earlier, they're locked into some ideas as to why it's happening. Many of us, like you and I wasn't even aware of the story that I told until 2001. Most of it was blocked out. But a lot of people they're locked in to feeling like shit. What do you say about that?
I think that's very true, but I think it's like we've talked about many times. It's the paradigms that the incidences that happen when we're younger. They create who we are now, and but it doesn't have to stay that way. But we do get locked into feeling like shit. It becomes a habit because there may have been some pretty shitty situations, and I think when certain things happen, it's very fearful, and that paradigm's created. We almost feel like life is fearful. Like that's just the way that it is, and then it becomes a habit of us just feeling like shit because of the things that happen to us. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Right. What were you afraid of? Think of some of the things you've been afraid of.
I don't even know. Like, there's obviously things that as adults we fear. I would fear about, financial stuff, this stuff, that stuff. But I think because it was such a young age that it was, I still wonder. I still sit there and think, what was I really? Why am I afraid? I think it's just a habit. I think it's not even the word I'm looking for. It's not relevant to actually life in general because I don't have to be afraid. Well, what am I afraid of?
Think of all the things that you were afraid of that never happened, huh?
A lot. I mean, no one is going to hurt me ever again. I'm 250 pounds and I'll kick their ass.
Right.
So I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's literally, like you said, it's a habit of us just living our lives feeling like shit because of things that happen that we didn't even create.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, and if you're watching, You don't have to go through an extreme situation like Danny or I. You could be feeling the same way and living the same way simply because all the rules, values, and beliefs that got drilled into you that didn't line up for you or you didn't agree with, but you were told to keep your mouth shut and just literally swallow it like a poison pill. You might be feeling like shit because you're locked into living a certain way that doesn't line up for who you are. Because the people that programmed you, they didn't know anything about you. They just programmed you the way they were programmed. And you just started living your life that way. And you're going, what the hell's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you. The only thing that's wrong with you is what you were told to believe, and you believe it. You've been operating that way ever since. So, so looking back, knowing what you know now about what held you back, what have you learned? You get, like Steve Jobs, you connect the dots looking backwards. Like, so looking backwards now knowing what you know.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is knowing that the abuse, any abuse that happens to anyone, is not their fault. Right. It's really, for me, it's not my cross to carry or burden to bear. It's that of the abusers. That's a big one, which I tried for years to forgive by, I don't know, I can't tell you how many books I had on forgiveness. Looking in the mirror, oh, I forgive you. I forgive. It's like, right. It never worked, but and asking and talking to God. I was never a big religious guy, but I've connected to God. I do believe there's someone up there, not in a religious way, but who we can connect with that will bring forgiveness to us. And since I started doing that, it really helped me to find ways to really let go of all of this stuff that I'm holding on to, and also looking back in compassion those that abused me and knowing that they went through something too. It's not right what they did, but I forgive them. I don't have to condone what they did, but I can forgive them and know that these people were probably through a lot, maybe more than me.
Well, that's good advice for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Forgive yourself, and you can't condone what you did, but you also got to realize you can condone yourself. You can condone what you did to a certain degree because of where you came from. And that was a hard thing for me to get my mind around. I've made a lot of mistakes that I wish I could turn them around. But in some respects, it's brought me to where I am, and the awareness and knowledge and the honesty. And on the other hand, I go, you know what? It's no wonder I did some of the shit that I did. And so I've forgiven myself. But forgiveness is huge. All right. So the show's called The Turning Point. What was there's been many turning points for you, but what would you say is the key turning point for you?
Yeah, there's probably a couple things to it. I think the biggest thing is being honest with myself, with what happened, with everything, with what I've done, because obviously, things were done upon me, and I've made mistakes in my life. I've made a lot, and I've hurt people, and I've done things that were wrong. But being honest with myself and owning that story, no longer beating myself up for it, no longer beating up other people for it, and also asking for honesty from those that were involved in my life at that time, family, my mom. Especially when you're at a young age and you may not remember, you need to get that information from people that were in your life. And just, dropping the chain, which was huge. But that takes time. And I think it's by repetition of continuously repeating, who I actually believe that I am. And now I know I'm a really loving and caring man, a good guy. And no matter what happened. And when we know that, then our self-image changes, and that's a turning point. And not looking back. And I think I was like, even up to like you and I around probably about 3 or 4 months ago, that we started getting into this real stuff about the past. We were doing a lot of stuff with business, which has been great. Right. But when I started, I would look back, and I was sitting with someone, and I said, I feel like I'm okay with everything that happened, but something just feels sticky about it. And now when I look back, I'm no longer looking back. I don't feel anything towards it, but that was a natural process. I don't think you can force it. I think it takes time to go through the steps. And that was a big turning point, is that when I'm looking back, it's like, and it's a testament that I'm here having this conversation.
Yeah.
Without any anxiety or nervousness at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. We want to get to some questions. but I want to ask you something. If you could give one piece of advice in hopes to cause a turning point for somebody else that's watching, what would you tell them?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Like, be honest with yourself. If there's things that happen in your life, whether or not they were at 3 years old or 15 or 30 years old, no matter the magnitude, be honest with yourself and ask honesty from the people that were involved. You know, I think pulling secrets out of a dark place, what it ends up doing is it pulls the shame out. And sometimes there's other people that are involved that are going to be shameful about the things that happened to you because they may have been a caregiver or close to you. So the biggest challenge for me was not worrying about other people. You got to let that go because it's not about them. You know, if they have shame around it, that's their work to do. So really letting go of that. What else would I say? I'd probably say changing, the way you view the past, changing the paradigm through repetition of just really getting to know yourself and working on your self-image, and then understanding that what happened, whether or not how big or small it was, if it happened, abuse to you, is not your fault. It's really someone else's fault.
Yeah. So Danny used a term called the paradigm. So you may not know what that means, but basically your paradigm in the context that we use it when we're mentoring, coaching people, is you've got this mental program that consists of rules, values, beliefs, your habitual behavior, the way you operate emotionally, how you see yourself. It's basically your viewpoint on you and your viewpoint on the outside world, which is governed by what's going on inside. And that, of course, that's what's really controlling you, is this mental program. So Danny had a perception of his story, of his mistakes, of his experiences, of the people that hurt him, of the relationships that failed, et cetera, the relationships he struggled with, et cetera. And that was his perception. And so all I've been trying to do with him for quite a while is just get him to change his perception. And there was a real shift that happened a few months ago. And then when he changed his perception, that for me, for Danny, in my working with him, was a turning point, because it was all of a sudden, all right. And now, you're lighter, you're feeling better. You're not like I was with the Eeyore effect, I call it, Danny. Hi, it's me. You know what I mean?
I love that reference.
Yeah.
I've been there, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. Well, Tyson, we got some questions before you get into that. I know we have some people send a couple questions in, and I hope that you guys aren't shy. I kind of liken it. You're in a meeting or seminar, somebody's speaking, and you want to put up your hand, or you want to stand up and ask a question. You want to say something, but then that fear kicks in. I would bust out of that if I were you. Just this is a great opportunity and a place for you to, ask a question. You could say it's for a friend if you want. But anyway, we'd love you to have it come on, or just, again, type some questions in the comments, or go in the backstage there and ask some questions. And don't forget to share this. If you're enjoying this, make sure you hit the share. Hit share right now, in fact.
And we have two questions that just came into the chat. Very brave. And the very first one, I'm actually very interested to see what you guys have to say, because this is something I want to know. So the question is, what would you call your story? Like, to share your story. And how I kind of interpreted this is like, how can you start piecing together what your story is? If I misinterpreted that, please comment. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, you want to go first, Danny? You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
I got an answer. Well, you're constantly, so you have a story in that you have a past story, you have a current story, which is your current situation, and current being like right now in this hour. And unfortunately, your ego is also creating a future story. So a lot of people don't really understand how ego and self-image works. And basically, here's a crash course in ego. It's really not that complicated. So your ego is defined by your past experiences. And it wants to hold on to the past because that makes your ego comfortable, because it knows who it is, what it is, and where it came from. And your ego really doesn't want you to change the future because it's threatened by the unknown. It's very safe knowing what it is and who it is. And so we tend to, worry about our future. Our ego causes us to do that. And so your story is your past, your present, and whatever you're thinking about your future. And when I say just share your story, you don't have to, like, I went public with my story. I wrote on the front page of the newspaper. You don't have to do that. But I remember the first time I did share my story is I came home from a counseling session when I first figured out the story, and I told my sister-in-law. I was living with my brothers. My marriage had fallen apart, and this story was coming out from the therapy. And I sat down with her, and I told her the story. You know what she did? She said, Doug, let me tell you a story. And she told me a story that explained all the problems that my brother and her faced in their own life. And the more I told my story, the more people told their story. So you kind of just, when I say share your story, just tell the truth about, if somebody asks you about your past, tell the truth. If somebody asks you what you're thinking right now, tell the truth. If somebody asks you, what do you think about the future? Just tell the truth. And don't worry about what people think or how they react. That would be my version or my answer, I guess. What about you, Danny? Any comment?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly it. I probably add that your story can be events in your life that have made you who you are today. They can be negative or positive. They can have like a negative impact or a positive impact. And I think share your story may be something that you are keeping a secret and not sharing it. I mean, there's one way to share it to get it out in a positive way, and then it's being a victim, which doesn't work, because
Right.
you don't want to just go and share with everyone to be like, oh, poor you, because that, and I've been there, but that's not what it's about. It's about telling the story to get it out in a positive way, so it's no longer stuck in you. So and then your story now. There's a story that you can create from this moment on that can be different than that ego story that's keeping you stuck there.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about when you talked earlier about the abusers. Like whatever your story is or your experiences are, if you want to play the victim card and you want to blame your situation, you want to blame your boss, you want to blame COVID, you want to blame, like we right now, blaming COVID, blaming the government, blaming the healthcare system, blame. Well, you can do that, but you can't do that. It's not going to get you anywhere. In Danny's case, forgiving, like, it's not the men that sexually abused me, that kidnapped me, it wasn't their fault. Like, they came from a story that caused them to do what they did. So if you want to play the blame game or the victim game, that's a losing game. And that's a choice. That's a choice. I stayed there. Danny stayed there. I wouldn't stay there. I wouldn't go there if you can avoid it. You might have to go there to leave there, but it's a losing game. So,
yeah.
Awesome, guys. That's a great answer. I love that. So this question is actually from a previous guest, Rita. So I'm glad to see her back in the chat.
Rita.
So what made you know that you needed help?
Because Rita told me I did. If you were on the show and saw Rita last week, you know what I'm talking about. What made you know you needed help, Danny?
For me, well, obviously there was the mental health, a lot of at the younger age, a lot of the feelings that were happening. And I started therapy and I was in my early 20s, and I just knew something was wrong. I knew intuitively, because a lot of what I believe happened, a lot of what happened, I didn't even know. But intuitively, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't right. I wasn't like other kids. I had all the learning disabilities and just was, sick all the time. I was paranoid all the time, and they, put me on a lot of drugs to numb me to that. The doctors did. I don't, that's a whole other story about to talk about. But it truly came down to the intuition. I think we all know that something's not right. And then when I went to a therapist, she was able to kind of pull a lot of things out of me, and the memory started to come up at that time. But I think it was intuition, just knowing that something's not right in me. I was not at ease ever. And if we're not at ease, there's something wrong. Because I think we're naturally supposed to be calm most of the time. Obviously, it's not perfection, but I think we're meant to be calm. So if there's something going on that's taking us away from that, if we're second guessing ourselves a lot, if we're questioning everything we do, then I think that tells you you might. And help is one thing. We all need help, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to really get it from ourselves, because that's where we're going to get our answers.
You said a couple things there. First off, Rita, if she was on here tonight, we talked about it last week. Like, fear is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
It really kills you. And Danny used words intuition. So just think. You may not be able to do this, but if you can, think about when you were little and young. If you have any memories, you were very intuitive. You were free. And you were at ease, and you just played, and you imagined things, and you had fun, and you got into trouble, and you got into fights with your friends and stuff like that. But generally, you really operated from an intuitive perspective, and that's really the way that we're made. But then we learn to stop using our intuition, or things happen that are distorted and are off track, and you don't really understand what's going on. And then it causes you, Danny used the word, it causes you to second guess yourself, where you stop trusting the intuition. And if you have kids, just watch them. Just watch young kids, and watch how intuitive they are. Some of them are very connected from a spiritual and from an energetic perspective, where like they see shit. And they have these made up friends. Well, they're not made up. We think they're made up, but they're not made up at all. Now, you might think that's bizarre, but you just don't understand that. But just watch children, and that's really where we got to start operating. Is go back to you didn't lose your intuition; you lost faith in your intuition, and maybe you got to go looking somewhere else for faith and belief until you have faith and belief. So borrow it from me, or borrow from people that are in your life that are doing better than you, that you want to do what they're doing. Go to God, and God will help you too. That's what happened with Danny. That's what happened with me. And I'm not talking religion. I'm talking having a relationship with your Creator, because you were created in God's image, and you're perfect, just the way that you are. You may not do perfect things. You may not have a perfect life, but you are absolute perfection. You need to get your head around that and accept that, and then you'll be free.
Awesome, guys. Those are great answers.
Great questions.
This next question, as soon as it got posted in the chat, 3 people liked it right away. So I know it's going to be a great question, and people are wanting to know it.
Right.
So I'm just going to bring it on the screen here. So is Adam Bones. What is the cure to replaying negative events and failures from the past? Is there going to be a time when I'm able to live in a positive state of being and not getting triggered all the time? When I try to change, I get ready to change, and then it comes to an actual doing to the new thing, I get paralyzed.
Well,
man, I know that one, man. I know.
Go ahead.
I know that one big time. Yeah, I think this is a habit. We create I don't think we create a habit of, attempting to get going, and then we become paralyzed so often that it ends up kind of screwing with us, for a lack of better words, where we mess ourselves up. So I think it's what I've started doing, what I've been working on a lot with that, is to get away from shoulding myself, and like, I should do this, I got to do this, because it becomes a really negative habit, and we don't end up doing anything. And get away from that, and maybe start looking more at what has happened in the past. I'm not, don't stay there, but maybe working on those things to change the way you look at it. I'm not sure what happened or what's triggering you now, but that was what was big for me. What else would I say? Yeah, those are probably the two big things. But I think it becomes a negative habit of just replaying these negative events and then attempting to move forward and getting stuck over and over again. Doug's helped me a lot with that, and I've been able to really help myself as well to move past that. But yeah, can I see the question again? It's gone. Maybe Doug, you want to add to it?
Well, just yeah, go ahead, read it over there.
Yeah, to be time you. I think we get stuck in this rat race of thinking we've got to do something different, whereas we just got to be us and be yourself. Like when I started, it's still a work in process, but I'm starting to become more confident in who I am, and I don't care what anyone thinks, and I'm just being me. Like the other day, I was driving, and usually I'd say, "Oh man, like I've been meaning to start a project at work. Oh man, I got to do that." And I started beating myself up a little bit, and I started getting stressed and anxious about it. And I thought, you know what, it's okay. I had a great day at work. It was really good. Some great things that happened. I talked to a great client today. It's okay. Let it go. I'm going to do it. Let's look at it in a different way. Let's look at, maybe making that change in a different way. And Doug's great at that, and he's been great at that, because sometimes it's good to have another person there to kind of see what's going on the outside. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think for me, just thinking about it, you're talking, there's a few things. Number one is when I started studying, really, like what I first off, I got the idea, or I heard the idea that, and it made sense that my mind and my thinking was causing my problems. And I heard it in a way I go, shit, that makes sense. That's probably true. And so the second thing that happened was I got introduced to a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was written in 1960. And they discovered, that was really the discovery of self-image. In psychology, it was a breakthrough at the time. And the author of that book, who was a physician, a plastic surgeon, in fact, he, through his research, discovered and came upon other research with German scientists that our mind is this cybernetic mechanism. He said, man has a machine. He's not a machine, but man has a machine that he uses. Yeah, there's the book there. And so when I read it, I go, all right, so I've got this machine. So it'd probably be prudent of me to figure out how the machine works. If I'm the operator, I've got this machine. It probably should figure out how it works. And I probably should use it properly. Because I'm the kind of guy, when I buy something, anything, I pull out the owner's manual or the instruction manual, and I read it before I do anything. I open up the box, I grab, that's the first thing I do. I've always been that way. And so I think that helped me buy into the idea that, okay, I'm going to figure out how the machine works. And then in the book, a couple rules I made up. He was quoting Dr. William Osler, and he said, decide to live your life in 24-hour blocks. Neither looking backwards on the past or worrying about the future, because the way the machine works, it's much like a GPS. It only works in the present moment if you're paying attention to the present moment. It'll solve all your problems, overcome every obstacle, get you to your goals, but you got to pay attention in the present moment. So if you're looking backwards on the past or you're worrying about the future, you're not paying attention, and you'll have a hard time getting to where you want to go. And so when I figured that out, oh my God, like things happen like freaking lightning fast. The other thing he says is relax and let the machine work. Don't jam it up with worry and doubt and fear. So I just made my mind up that I just live in the now. I've even earlier today, I was thinking about something I had to do, and I thought, I don't have to do that till 3. I'm not going to think about it. So I live in 1 hour blocks now. If I start thinking about something that I don't have to think about right now, I go, no. And so I think, Adam, what it takes is a decision through understanding, or just like I tell people, I always say, listen, if I came from poverty and abuse and now I have abundance and confidence, you'd think I know what the hell I'm talking about. And so like Bob Proctor, who mentored me, like he kept telling me, Doug, let it go, let it go, let it go. And I'm like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, Bob. Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. And he was right. And so if you either gain the understanding to accept what we're saying, or just accept what I'm saying and just freaking trust me and do exactly what I tell you to do. That's what I say today. Just do exactly what I tell you to do. I don't tell them how to do everything, but certain things I say, do this. And maybe that's what you need to do. We got time for maybe one more, Tyson? Then we got to wrap up. Got time?
Yeah. Yeah, the time does go by fast, honestly. So we got one question from Sandra from Toronto. Things seem to get better for a while, but then it's like 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. What am I doing wrong?
What is she doing wrong, Danny?
I've done that. I lived that. I think I've even said that before.
We all have.
Yeah. Not trusting yourself when you take those 2 steps forward. Not trusting the process and what you're doing. For me, and then when an incident may happen that brings you 3 steps back, is it really worthy of bringing you 3 steps back? Like whatever happens, how do we respond to it? Are we reacting to a negative situation that's creating us to jump 3 steps back, as opposed to really just thinking through it and then responding to it? I don't know what situations Sandra might be going through, but I know for me that was the biggest thing. Is sometimes we overreact in what's happening because of our story and all the bad things that happen. So we overreact. Like, oh man, shit, this again. That was my biggest thing. Like, oh, my life, shit, things go bad all the time. It always comes in threes. Well, yeah, if you keep telling yourself it comes in threes, it's going to come in threes.
Yeah.
And that, I think, just really trusting, that it's okay if something that happens, because it's going to happen. What's that law again? The law of
relativity.
Like ebb and flow.
Law of rhythm.
Law of rhythm, like ebb and flow. Things are going to be good and they're going to be bad. Just know that it's going to come back up again. And then, instead of that, you're making 3 steps forward and maybe 1 back or 2 back, and you're continuing to progress.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the answer to her question is at the end of her question. You think you're doing something wrong. And you think there's something wrong with the way you're doing things. Maybe you're not taking 2 steps forward. Maybe you're taking 2 steps forward going down the wrong path. And then maybe you back up 3 steps, but then you go in a different path. The key is don't keep going down the same freaking path, right? Take a couple steps forward. That ain't working. Back up and go in a different direction. So, again, we're enslaved by our habits. We're enslaved by this mental program, by this paradigm, as Danny called it. And so if your way is not working, you got to change what's going on inside. And everybody's doing it themselves. It's the DIY on self-help, do it yourself. It doesn't work. I mean, you'll make incremental gains, but most people like me, I struggled a long, long time trying to figure it out by myself. And that's not a good idea. If you want to move fast and you want to make changes quickly and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you got to go ask for help and make sure you're asking somebody that's getting the results you want to get. Like, don't go ask poor people for advice if you want to earn money. If you want to lose weight, don't ask somebody that's fat. Okay. Now, you may not like the way I say that, but that's real. We go to people for their opinion and they're not even getting the results that we want. And that's not a really good idea. So listen, Danny, thanks for coming on.
For having me.
It was great. I wish we could do this all night. There's Adam. Thanks for the gut punch. No problem, buddy. We could do this all night long. You can find Danny online. He's a great guy. And if you ever want to chat with him, I'm sure he'd chat with you. And come back to the show. We're here every Thursday. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. You'll get notified. If you want to reach out to me, if you want to talk, if you want help, if you want to work with me, and have me mentor and coach and punch you in the gut and kick your ass. I'm ready for that. I love kicking people's ass. And of course, Tyson and Aaron, thanks for all your help. And thanks for all of you that are watching. And again, share this. If you're watching the replay, share it. Put some comments in. Let us know how we're doing. If we're pissing you off, or you want to fight or argue or complain or ask a question, just like get involved in the conversation. And we're going to keep on going here. So thanks again, Danny. Thanks, Tyson. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks.